Welcome back, everyone, to another episode with Fight Pass with Mitch, presented by Notorious Pulls Radio. And for this week's episode, we are going over a major card, UFC 288, that is going down May 6th in Newark, New Jersey at the Prudential Center. Before we get into it, guys, remember, if you're new to our episode, please leave a like, follow, and subscribe on all our platforms. And let's get into it. The main event, the matchup we've all been waiting for. Our champion, Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling, is going against the former Bantamweight champion, Henry Cejudo. As you all know, this is a huge grudge match because this has been 3 years since Henry Cejudo has retired from the sport of MMA. He is coming back right away to fight the current champion, Aljamain Sterling. This is a massive, massive grudge match. As you know, Aljamain has been a super dominant champion. He's on an 8-fight win streak, and he's been in the UFC since 2014. He already has 17 fights with the promotion. His last fights have been against TJ Dillashaw, which he made quick work for. He had to fight Peter Yan 2 times, Corey Sandhagen. He has been absolutely battle-tested from the best of the best in the bantamweight division. As you know, Henry Cejudo, record 16-2, Triple C, is the former. Not only was he a bantamweight champion, but he was also a flyweight champion in the UFC, and he has a gold medal in Olympic freestyle wrestling. The interesting thing is that he's coming into this fight as the slight favorite at a -115. What has me a little bit concerned is that, yes, before he left, he had a beautiful finish against Dominic Cruz. He put a fantastic performance against Marlon Moraes. But I have not really got to see him to fight the best of the best at 135. For Aljo, you cannot say that. Aljamain has absolutely been battle-tested, has come back from major neck surgery to show that he is still the top dog in his division. Also, Aljamain, his training partner, is the #1 contender, and that's Merab Dvalishvili. Both of them together are absolute stars in their own respective way. This fight on May 6th is going to be absolutely incredible. I cannot wait to see both of these stars have amazing ground game. As you know, Cejudo with the wrestling, and Aljamain, a black belt trained by Matt Serra, which just speaks for itself. As you know, Matt Serra, former champion who beat George St. Pierre. Cejudo, his last fight was on May 9th in 2020. So this marks literally his 3-year layoff that he's coming back to go for this bantamweight belt. Cejudo is a crazy shit talker, and I really, really enjoy watching his fights. I love his style. He brings a lot of energy, and I understand why he walked away from the belt, because he wasn't getting the money that he felt that he deserved from the promotion. I feel like now things have changed. He was able to call his shot, and Aljamain is your fighter's fighter. He is not scared to fight anyone. He gladly accepted Henry Cejudo, and he can't wait to put on a performance as close as he can to his hometown in Long Island. As you know, he tweeted he was actually not allowed to fight in New York because his CAT scan showed that he had some aneurysms, and they were obviously worried about a brain bleed. So the closest thing that the UFC was able to do was to get him into New Jersey, into the Prudential Center, to have this massive pay-per-view event for the East Coast of New York. As you know, the MMA scene has been always a slow in the eastern sector of the country. It was always more of a down south and a West Coast thing. But it's really nice how great and how amazing the scene has been growing in the eastern side, with camps coming out of Boston, Long Island, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. a lot of some of the best fighters in the world are really coming from the eastern side of the country right now, and I'm super excited about that. As you know, I'm going to have to be rocking with Aljamain. We were at the open workout at the Cerro Longo gym on Friday.
You start looking ahead, bad things start happening. What's up, bro?
I want to ask you, watching this open workout has been absolutely great. I see two of the top bantamweights in the world. You also have Marav here next to you. It's awesome watching you guys sprawl. Is there anything about Henry Cejudo's wrestling that you find challenging, him being a former Olympic champion?
Challenging is going to be the entry. I think other than that, once I get a hold of him, it's going to be like everybody else. He sprawls the same way everybody else sprawls. There's no significant difference in the way you sprawl from Olympic medalist to national champion. I wrestle some of the best guys in the world, and I'm pretty confident in my wrestling ability. And it's not a wrestling match.
Yeah.
He's got to grapple, he's got to clinch, he's got to watch out for elbows, he's got to watch out for knees. Easy knees that I step up and they come right to his chin. The guy is, he's a tough competitor, but at the same time, we're all human, we make mistakes. And if he makes a mistake, he's going to be sleeping looking at the lights. So he can talk about his wrestling as much as he wants. I hope he's ready to put it around my neck on May 6th.
Thank you, champ.
And he looked absolutely incredible. Weight was coming in on point. His striking was crisp. His mind, his mentality, one of the most humble people that I have ever met. Such a nice guy, was so welcoming to the media. He was taking pictures with the fans, very interactive, brought a lot of the fans, the media. Everyone had a wonderful time at this open workout. Head coach Ray Longo was present. We had a bunch of the pro fighters, Dennis Bazookia, Nazim Sadikov, Giante Villanti stopped by for a little bit. People brought their kids. It was an absolutely amazing atmosphere to be a part of in Law MMA. As you know, I cannot wait for this event to finally come. All the shit talking is done. Aljamain said it on Friday. He cannot wait to send Cejudo back to retirement. Him and Leon Edwards are the two Jamaican champions in the UFC, and hopefully with a big performance on Saturday night, it will be possible to finally bring a big UFC main event to the island of Jamaica. So I am absolutely excited. I hope for the best, and I want to say, and still, Aljamain's hand will be raised at the end of Saturday night with spectacular finish, with no doubt about it in my mind. But the co-main event coming up is also something not to be played with. We have Belal, remember the name Muhammad, the number 4 ranked welterweight, going against Gilbert Dorino Burns, the number 5 ranked welterweight. As you know, Belal Muhammad has been very hungry in the division. He has been trying to call for a title shot and literally crawling his way to that number 1 contender position. Unfortunately, it's really not that he's not a talented fighter, it's that his popularity is just not there yet. And I am actually happy that Gilbert, who just fought Masvidal in April, is coming with such a quick turnaround this coming Saturday. Dorino is one of my favorite fighters of all time. This guy is a stud, a man's man. He will slug it out with you. He will grapple you. He's a fighter with very little weaknesses when it comes to his overall skill set in the MMA world. Belal Muhammad, 22-3 record, has 17 fights in the UFC since 2016. His last win against Sean Brady, to me, is what really put him on the map. A lot of people didn't believe that he would be able to get past the undefeated Sean Brady, one of the top grapplers in the welterweight division. But obviously his hand skills and his resilience, he was able to get a TKO finish against Sean Brady. He had also a beautiful revenge win against Vincent Luque, had a wonderful win against the awesome striker Stephen Thompson, and he was able to defeat Damian Maia, one of the best submission artists ever in UFC history. Unfortunately, one of the fights before, he actually fought the current champion, Leon Edwards, but the fight had to be stopped for an inadvertent eye poke, in which I hope one day they will be able to run that back and give us the full fight that we deserve as fans. Burns obviously just retired Jorge Masvidal, which I knew was a win-win for him. There was no way that Masvidal had anything that he would be able to do to Burns, which, like I said, Burns is a much more complete fighter overall than Masvidal. But I was very happy for the main event. I think it was a very entertaining fight, and it was one of the most best-selling pay-per-views of all time for the UFC. His opponent prior, Neil Magny, he finished in a beautiful fashion in a triangle choke. And then literally the fight that he lost prior was to Khamzat Chimaev. And as you know, Chimaev is a huge star. Whether it's going to be in the welterweight division or the middleweight division, honestly, I have no idea. Following this guy, it's almost impossible. He's literally has called out everyone from the sun to under the moon. He'll fight anyone, but we just have to understand what weight class does this monster want to stay in. I don't believe he can really actively stay at 170. I do believe his home will be at the middleweight, and I will be excited to see his return in the UFC octagon cage. The fact that Gilbert Burns was able to really slug it out for 15 minutes with Chimaev and really actually hurting Chimaev. He was one of the only fighters that was able to show some kind of weakness against Chimaev, that he used his anger almost against himself. He was actually this close to putting out the lights on Khamzat. And Khamzat just has a rock chin, was able to hold it through and get the unanimous decision against Gilbert Burns. This fight, to me, Gilbert Burns is an immense veteran. He's been in the UFC since 2014. He's already 20 fights in to his career with the promotion. I do believe he has been super active. He's coming from an amazing camp with head coach Henry Hooft. And as much as I like Belal Muhammad, I do believe Gilbert Burns is just that dog. He's that Ninja Turtle. He's just that no-neck pit bull when it comes to the welterweight division, and there is very few who can actually be able to beat Gilbert Burns. I do believe that he will end Belal Muhammad's run, and he will humble him that Saturday night. I know why Belal wants to fight Gilbert Burns, because Gilbert Burns keeps talking about a title shot. Belal is absolutely right. A big win over Burns really puts him in to title contention. I do believe the winner of this fight, depending if Leon Edwards will fight Colby Covington or they will force that upon Leon Edwards, it's really hard to say what's going to happen. But Leon Edwards is going to have to fight either Colby Covington or the winner of this match, either Belal Muhammad or Gilbert Burns. That is without a doubt the way the matchmakers are looking at this and the way I see this. And I do believe this is a huge, huge key matchup on the possible next #1 contender for the welterweight title. Our next fight that I want to discuss is a gentleman who's finally coming back to the UFC. Huge hype behind him. He has a massive fighting legacy, and that's Kron Gracie. If you know the last name Gracie, there's no need for introduction. This is mixed martial arts royalty. This is absolute royalty in the fighting world. And he's 5-1. His last loss was to Cub Swanson. His UFC debut, he won beautifully against Alex Caceres with a rear naked choke. But who he's fighting is an absolute scrappy contender in the featherweight division, and that is Charles Jourdain. The Canadian comes to fight every time, and he brings the heat every time he steps into the octagon. With a record of 13-6, yes, he's on a 2-fight losing streak, but I do believe he has earned the right to fight Kron Gracie. His last loss was to Nathaniel Wood. He lost to Shane Burgos out in the UBS Arena in Long Island. He had a beautiful win against Lando Venata. He had an insane win against Andre Ewell, and he lost to also Julian Erosa. So yes, he comes in, but he's always gunning for that performance of the night, for that fight of the night bonus. One of the most entertaining featherweights, in my opinion. There's never a boring Charles Jourdain fight. That's one thing the fans have to agree. And I do believe he will be a handful for Kron Gracie. Like I said, when it comes to the ground game, I have no doubt that Jourdain will not be able to submit Kron Gracie. This is a submission specialist. It's grappling is just in his blood. He was grappling in the womb, for all we know. But due to this long layoff, I do believe that Kron will still get the edge. His last fight against Cub Swanson, I thought he was going to die out in that octagon. He took a lot of damage, and he gave a lot of respect to Cub Swanson. And I do believe he's going to learn from his mistakes, and he will find that edge over Charles Jourdain on Saturday night. And I'm really excited to have him on one of the biggest fight cards of the year. The UFC has been putting up non-stop massive cards since the month of March. It's just been banger after banger, and I'm really excited for this month of May when they are opening up with a killer UFC pay-per-view main event. For the final fight that you guys have to absolutely watch out for, and that is against the fight Drew Dober versus Matt Frevola. As you know, there is no doubt about we are Notorious Radio is rocking with Matt, the Steamroller Frevola. This is our guy from Long Island. He is from the same gym as Aljamain Sterling, Law MMA, and he is an absolute dog, one of the humblest, nicest guy in the MMA business, and an absolute savage when that octagon cage closes. His opponent, I cannot say anything bad about him. Drew Dober he is no slouch. He is on a 3-fight win streak against Bobby Green. He beat Rafael Alves. He had a win over Terrence McKinney. And the 2 losses that he had prior was against Brad Riddell and the current UFC lightweight champion, Islam Makhachev. He is ranked the 14th lightweight in the UFC, and he is the favorite at a -205 with a record of 26-11. Frevola 10-3 as the underdog at +175 had a spectacular knockout at UFC MSG in November against Atman Zaitar, which was an absolute beautiful match with the undefeated Atman coming in thinking he's going to come and steamroll the roller. Absolutely not. He got a little bit of taste of the train and he got whacked. The fight before, Steamroller also ran through Gennaro Valdez. He had a loss to Terrence McKinney. He had a loss to Arman Tsarukyan, which he fought overseas, and Tsarukyan came in overweight, and Steamroller still took that fight. And he had a win over Luis Pena the fight before. I believe Steamroller has got all the pieces what it takes to rock with anyone in the top 15 UFC's lightweight division. And I'm so excited to watch this card. Guys, remember, if you want to support us, we sell some of the most dopest merch out there on notoriouspulsclothing.com. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe us on all of our platforms. And I can't wait to see you guys and watch this on Saturday night. See you soon. Your host, Fight Pass with Mitch. Stay tuned. We'll be back for more.